The Dean of the Chapel, Dr. Lawrence Carter, said in the unveiling ceremony, "You have done for gay and lesbian people what Martin Luther King Jr. did for people of color. I hang today just beneath Justice Thurgood Marshall." During the years of my retirement, I also wrote and HarperCollins published 5 new books, each of which expanded my life and my intellectual scope enormously. I lectured extensively on these books all over the world, including appearances at some 500 universities, colleges, and theological seminaries in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Finland, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Spain, and Thailand. When my books began to be translated into German, French, Italian, Spanish, Korean, Arabic, and the languages of Scandinavia, my work and ideas reached an expanded world audience. I was able to develop European lecture tours and to have articles published in prominent journals in Latin America. In my retirement, I have also developed a career as a weekly columnist on the Internet, working ultimately for a company that my wife Christine and I earlier helped to found, entitled Progressive Christianity Incorporated. I have now written that column for 16 years, and through its question and answer feature, I have been able to develop a dialogue with people around the world. One other great privilege of my retirement years was that I was made a Fellow of the Jesus Seminar, that remarkable biblical and early Christianity think tank founded by Dr. Robert Funk, a brilliant scholar who once served as the Executive Secretary of the Society of Biblical Literature. In this seminar, some 250 scripture scholars of all religious traditions meet regularly to explore contemporary biblical issues and to do so in a very public way. It was the intention of the Jesus Seminar not to allow its findings to remain hidden inside the ivy-colored walls of academia, but through the use of public media to reach the working clergy and, perhaps more importantly, the thinking lay people who occupy the pews of our churches on Sunday mornings. Above all, I continued in retirement my lifelong habit of serious study in the early morning hours of each day. My appetite for exploring the Bible outside the boxes of traditional religion was whetted anew by the 5 years from 2006 to 2010, a period that I devoted to the study of the Fourth Gospel, which resulted in the publication of a book entitled The Fourth Gospel, Tales of a Jewish Mystic. It was, I thought, the most creative piece of writing in my career. The responses I received from audiences around the nation convinced me that a case can be made for the continued power of the Bible among educated people if biblical scholars are courageous enough to break out of the straitjackets of their threadbare and time-warped approaches to traditional religion. In 2014, at the Chautauqua Institution in Western New York, more than 10,000 people attended my 5 days of lectures on John's Gospel, and about 25% of that audience was Jewish. When this book on the Fourth Gospel was complete, I felt, once again, that my writing career was over. Just to continue the habit of a lifetime, however, I began to engage the Gospel of Matthew, reading continuously and exclusively on this subject for more than 4 years. This study was so enriching and so eye-popping that it led eventually to the publication of this present volume. I have now begun a time of intense study of the Gospel of Luke, but I am doing it for the joy of the study alone. I do not believe that I have sufficient longevity left in what William Shakespeare called this mortal coil to produce yet another book at age 90. No one other than my mother would probably want to read it anyway. So this book of Matthew will probably be my final book. In addition to my wonderful wife, whom I love beyond measure, and who has been my primary editor on this volume, and to our 5 now adult children, I have dedicated this book in memoriam to the 3 people whom I acknowledge as the 3 greatest mentors of my life. I want to say just a word about each of them in this preface. Time moves so rapidly that brilliant, magnificent, and heroic people are quickly forgotten. This is the inevitable fate of all of us, but let me roll back the curtain of time for just a moment and pay a final tribute to these 3 heroes of mine. The first is John Elbridge Hines, a native of Seneca, South Carolina. His distinguished career as an Episcopal priest carried him from St. Louis County in Missouri to Hannibal, Missouri, to Augusta, Georgia, to Houston, Texas, where in 1945, at age 35, he was elected bishop in the Diocese of Texas. He served that diocese until 1963, when the entire Episcopal Church elected him to be its presiding bishop. He was in that post from 1964 to 1973. John